here's the people that may or may not be talking. David James might join us. We don't know. I mean, somewhere most of us end up reporting to him one way or another, but he can be elusive. Happy to report that Ben and Rudy have found homes. They no longer live in alleys. So, happy little Christmas meal for them. Let's move on to the agenda. Corey kind of alluded to it. Sorry about the name. It's basically a lie. We decided we'd talk a whole bunch about Ignite. Of course, Jordan and Carrie didn't get that memo, so they're going to make you all shades of sad about the fun, happy things that happened this year in the world of security. Rudy and I are going to talk about a lot of the stuff that happened at Ignite that's very specific to system administrators. I know you might think it was all about AI, and if you read, you may not even know this, but there's a whole book of Ignite that comes out, and if you made that a drinking game of how many times Copilot was said, you aren't on this webinar because you've planned a funeral because you died from liver failure.
That's too much eggnog, Brian. That's too much eggnog. Like I'm not gonna lie. I did go and look at the book of news the other day for it when we were talking about this, and I was looking for like security bits about it that I wanted to talk about it. Every single security bit was then followed by the word Copilot. Yeah, and there's 147 references. I checked.
I for one, I cannot wait until they change the marketing changes Copilot to something else, and they have to go and rebrand every single thing. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I look forward to this.
I don't believe you checked, Jordan. I think you asked Copilot how many Copilots.
I mean, I might have, and it's real bad at counting sometimes. It's possible. Yeah. It's entirely possible. I did, in fact. Now I'm tempted. I should go and back and do I did a Control F at the time, but now I feel inspired to go have ChatGPT and Copilot have a sound off to see how many times they can find it referenced in the article.
Yeah. They unfortunately he did run that query, Russ, and then he ran out of SVUs very quickly.
It stopped at 147. Yeah, there was actually 533. But anyway.
Yep. So all this to say, you could be forgiven for thinking or ignoring Ignite because you're like, well, they're just going to talk about Copilot. But I'm here to tell you there was actually some very interesting thing, I think, from a system administrator and Intune perspective. So we're going to talk about that. Ben Reeder is joining us. He actually went to Ignite, like he was there. So we did not pay for him to return. So he's going to do a live report from the floor of Ignite.
I found a quiet spot.
Yeah, exactly. And then, if as we have time, then we will get into some of the Copilot and AI stuff. And Russ is going to lead that, and DJ, who's probably not going to show up. So that's the brief agenda. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jordan and Carrie to talk about happy, fun security time things.
Yeah, that's how I would describe this year. Happy, fun security time things. Perfect. Absolutely.
Russ did say maybe he was going to make you sing your way through these.
Absolutely not. No one wants to hear that. That's a bad idea.
I'm sorry. I think a pigeon just flew into my wireless network internet tower outside. The blizzard here is really bad. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So first off, we have everybody's favorite. We have a little worm going on. Shai-Hulud worm. This is the second time it's come around, so the gift that keeps on giving if we're staying with that Christmas theme. It's basically going to steal the cloud credentials. It's an NPM token, and it's on GitHub. So yippee!
So the fun thing about this for it, as I was going to say, the fun thing about this for it, right, is the fact that the way that this kind of propagates itself, it's come up twice now. It came up a couple of months ago, and then it resurfaced again like 2 weeks ago, basically. Because what happened was that it's the very first of its, well, I shouldn't say totally the first, but it's kind of supposed to be the first of its kind, where basically it's leveraging, you'll like this, Ben, GitHub Actions to self-propagate itself. By basically when it's losing NPM tokens to look inside of the GitHub package, find tokens to other repositories and other forks that it can find for it, and then writing itself out as new actions into other repositories to then get access and tokens for it. And this has come up. There's a full list of over 400, I believe, new Git packages. That are out there, including things like the CrowdStrike packages, some of the Angular packages for it, a lot of the common core web framework packages. So if you are a developer out there for it, or you are somebody who consumes software that happens to be developed by someone, odds are good you do, you might want to go and at least look and get an idea of like, well, what are the vendors for it or what are the solutions for it that are on this gigantic list for it? And this is going to continue to keep popping up because it can keep replaying itself out until everybody finds all the places that it's hidden inside of any of the actions or any of the calls for it, inside of a bunch of the GitHub pools for it.
Yep.
So watch out for the Grinch trying to come down your
fine-tuning.
chimney or the Shai-Hulud trying to come down your chimney along the way.
Yeah,
Whoa.
kind of.
If Shai-Hulud comes down my chimney, which doesn't exist, like that's a cultural
You won't have a
event.
house anymore.
Yeah, that's a cultural event that I want my children to be awake for.
Well, that's a really good question in the chat. How likely is it the vibe coded apps are using NPM packages? LOL. Actually,
Significantly.
Yeah, significantly for it because it may not necessarily know or be trained to be aware yet. This actually would be an interesting thing, Russ, right? Is like the speed of which a RAG gets updated for it to be knowledgeable about like, oh, that's a new bad pattern for it.
Well, actually, the good news is that vibe coding will select an NPM package that doesn't exist. So,
well, there's also that.
That's 3D chess there.
Yes.
There's also that. That's also an outcome.
We did have this year, we had that WSUS flaw that everybody's favorite, full server compromise. So super fun. And it has been, of course, picked up by every ransomware group to try to get some money for the holidays or any time of the year.
And actually, as of last week, it's now actively being exploited.
Yep.
The even bigger thing for it now.
That WSUS one, within a day, I talked to two different orgs that there was what's the thing of exposure, like the thing where you can detect that you've been popped. They're like, we have those.
We got hit by
indicator of what is it?
IOC, indicator of
IOC.
compromise.
Right.
Yeah, indicator IOC, yeah.
Yep. So just for kind of some extra bits on this, right? Like it's not like the way that it happens and the way that it works basically is they can run deserialization to get a DLL basically just to run arbitrary code inside of your environment by playing it over the network. Unauthenticated, we get to convince you to basically deserialize this and now you run whatever it is that we told you to over it. And because it's WSUS, the thing that creates updates and puts it on all the other machines in your environment, and it's a trusted source. Basically, if you had something that was over there, you could use what's called PowerCat for it, which is a PowerShell netcat utility, basically, then to use systemcmd and curl to then start installing remote control tools on all of your endpoints for it. So it is actively being exploited out there as of November 24th. It has a full-blown, like much bigger exploit chain now for it. It's been out for about a month now. If you've not yet patched WSUS servers, you absolutely need to go and make sure that you've patched all of the WSUS servers. Otherwise, your holidays this season are going to be very sad because attackers will wait once they've started a compromise chain for it. Christmas time, when we've got everybody leaving for the holidays, is right around the end of the 30-day to 60-day average for dwell time for it.
Yeah. So definitely something to watch out for. And the next three are kind of more news, less CVE specific. We moved from Windows 10 to 11. Hopefully you're on Windows 11 at this point. I looked up the numbers for this and it's very interesting. Basically, we still have like about 1 billion devices that are still on Windows 10 for various reasons. About half of those just can't update due to a myriad of issues, some hardware, some requirements, all of that. So update if you can. Always a positive thing to be on the latest version. Many of us remember the CrowdStrike outage from earlier this year, which caused lots of blue screen of death all over the place, kind of shut down airports for a bit. The numbers after that was about 8.5 million devices were affected by that. I know when we did a Patch Tuesday earlier this year, we let our Patch Tuesday webinar, we let some people rant about stuff that was going on in their organization. So that was always fun to hear about people's experience with large outages that happen. And then this year also the Internet Archive, of course, the Wayback Machine got hacked, which is a weird thing to hack, but you know, if you're a hacker, you hack things. So here we are. It got breached twice. It was also distributed denial of service. And basically just exposed and stole all the member data. It was down for a while. It's back up. So there we have it. Just some interesting stuff going on. We also saw the relaunch of National Public Data, which wasn't great. It was taken down in 2024, but it resurfaced this year. And this is all of those records that people have been collected about people over time. So, your name, your address, your social security number. If you live in the US, phone numbers, family details, pretty much anything. It's about 3 billion records, so not a small thing. And that is still on that site. So super fun. Definitely lock down your stuff if you haven't already. And then, of course, this year, Salt Typhoon got into US Telecom by exploiting those Cisco flaws noted below. Of course, the major telecom providers here in the US were affected, and it's just kind of the age that we live in. Lots of cyber espionage going across major countries, and we are all affected in different ways. And I think I've heard Brian say before, if it's just a hacker, you might be able to kind of get out of it. But if it's a nation state threat actor going after you, I don't know if there's too many resources we really have to combat that, since it seems like they have a lot of money and time. And so another couple things that happened this year, SharePoint flaws, tool shell. That was a fun little adventure for a lot of organizations. Basically, 4 flaws were identified and exploited, and then lots of trying to clean up after that by Microsoft and other kind of stakeholders in the industry. Definitely recommend that you have all of these kind of shored up by this point. And then I think Jordan's the one who reminded us about this one from about a month ago. It's been very recent. Microsoft Graphics Component allows remote code execution. And if you want to give some more colors to that, Jordan, welcome to.
Yeah. Right. So this one, this particular one, we wanted to put this back on here just because of the fact that this is just from last month. And so this is the wonderful, joyous graphics driver from Microsoft. So basically, if you look at pixels for it along the way on your computer screen, then this is likely exists. And it was, I believe Microsoft released a fix for this even in Server 2008. If this tells you just how far back and how into the applicable stack deep that this particular vulnerability goes.
Yeah, it's from 2008 to 25, so big date.
And it's Windows 10, it's 11. Like some of the things that we don't normally see patches for it get released, they actively went out of their way and added another release for it. So just something to think about, like if you're opening images or if your users open images in some way, shape, or form of as people are getting ready to send out all those wonderful Christmas cards for the holidays for it along the way, something to think about of how do we start to make sure that we get this patched as quickly as we possibly can, even with it being the end of the holiday season here as we're kind of coming up towards the end of it here, right? Because this is that perfect time when they know and people know that people are going to be out of the office towards the end here for it.
And then this year we saw some really positive changes with NIST, with password changes, stuff that actually makes sense. Basically, they said, hey, we shouldn't be changing our password every 5 seconds. Yeah. Only if you're compromised. We should use, kind of those passphrases versus super complex passwords, just stuff that every, sysadmin already knows, but
for the longest time, the standards were so lagging behind it. Like how many times would we get a questionnaire a week? What did you say, Carrie, for it? Yep. Where somebody would ask us why don't you change your passwords every 30 days, this, that, or the other thing along the way for it? Because where it's that's not that might be a standard of 60 or 90 days for it, but it's actually a less secure thing for it. It's it's taken a long time to get caught up in some of the standards of what certain government or certain other institutions expect for it.
That's what I was going to say is it's nice because now people who adopt a NIST framework for their organizations, it'll actually be something that is positive, more secure, rather than just they're just going off of, NIST says this, so that's what we'll do. So now it's actually a more secure way to control your environment. Next thing, scattered hunters. So this is an interesting one that happened this year. We kind of had a void by breach forums. The creator or operator, he was kind of sentenced earlier this year to some jail time. And so kind of 3 cybercrime groups essentially have kind of come in to take over that basically service, the extortion as a service, and they are doing lots of very interesting hacks, and they all have different, of course, ways of doing that. We saw shiny hunters earlier this year with going after some more like high-end retailers. Scattered Spider is always kind of going after larger organizations as well. So this will be interesting to kind of watch to see if this group kind of sticks together or if they kind of splinter off. Always interesting to watch groups come and go as enforcement around the world happens. And then we recently, just very recently, we got version 4 of our CVE scoring standardization. We got it updated. We're on 4.0 now, and basically helps kind of tailor your scores to your environment. So when you look at a CVE score, you can actually, it gives you more metrics that are a little more relevant. We have a couple of new metrics that they added, which was attack requirements and safety impact. So hopefully, just if it says, hey, this is a SEV 9, you'll actually know whether that SEV 9 is super relevant to you or if you can hold off for a little bit or where it's going to affect you in the future. So those are kind of the 12 little gifts of Christmas to think about, and pass it off to Rudy.
I want to add one more special bonus 13th round of presents for you all.
That would be bad luck.
I know, exactly.
Why would you do this?
Well, reasons. As we're coming here into the holidays, it's always that wonderful time of the year when everybody gets these wonderful new presents called cell phones. So just a friendly reminder that if you're using MFA with cell phones, to remind all of your users as they're getting new phones for Christmas to migrate their MFA tokens ahead of time for it before they actually swap their phones out for it, to try and minimize some wonderful New Year's tickets of inevitable help. I've getting rid of my old phone and now I can't log in.
Or Jordan,
friendly reminder.
Maybe just also adding, don't wipe your phone if you want to get yourself a new watch.
Yep. In another country. Yeah. Also, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good call out for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's Rudy and Brian.
All right. So thank you guys for walking us through that. As I said early on, there is actually some really interesting stuff I thought came out of Ignite. So if we go to the next slide here, here's the brief agenda of what Rudy and I are going to go through. I'm going to hand it off to Rudy here. He's going to walk you through the first section, then I'll walk through Intune and Autopatch. But there's actually some really interesting stuff I think we should be paying attention to. A lot of this stuff is like, actually, it feels about 50-50. Some of the stuff is there today, maybe in private preview, but a lot of it is looking to GA in early Q1 of 2026. So this is a bunch of forward-looking stuff that, I don't know, gets me excited. So with that, I'll hand it off to Rudy and take it away, sir.
Yes, sounds good. So we're going to talk about a lot of Windows stuff, some Intune and Autopatch stuff. So let's move on to the second slide, I think. So to kick it off with the first, yeah, exactly that one, because I was watching the keynote, the Intune keynote, and the first thing I noticed, I was like, hey, what's that? The speaker, I'm not going to mention his name, but he was going through all the options and all the things he wanted to discuss, and he touched on every single topic except Autopilot Device Association. He didn't even mention it. He didn't explain it. He just ignored it while it was just sitting there. And I was like, well, that's fun, because with Microsoft now publicly announcing Autopilot Device Association, I'm good to go, right? So next slide, so we can figure out what Device Association is, right? Because if we want to have a good understanding of what Microsoft didn't announce at Ignite, we need to go back to check out what Autopilot is and what Autopilot version 1 is all about. In my opinion, Autopilot is all about skipping the out-of-box experience questions. All the funny, stupid questions you get with when enrolling your device, you can skip that with Autopilot. With Autopilot device preparation, we didn't have that because Autopilot only kicked in after the user signed in. So you got all the out-of-box questions like device naming, privacy settings, the EULA, everything you need to accept, and even a work or school account setting or prompt, which is pretty stupid because, in my opinion, that's Autopilot. And somehow, with device association, Microsoft is now giving you the power to associate your device with your tenant, which allows you to configure the out-of-box experience for a PDP as well. So if Microsoft is going to get this in public or generally available, we can also define the out-of-box experience settings like we did with Autopilot, which, in my opinion, is one of the best announcements Microsoft did at Ignite. But, well, they didn't announce it, but they just skipped it. So that was, I guess, the first one. We can move on to the second one, because Microsoft announced a lot of stuff. So Autopilot Device Association was one, but they also talked a lot about the Windows recovery environment, which sounds pretty funny, but I still wasn't sure what it was about. So let's zoom into that one as well then. Because how Microsoft was announcing it, it was like we are giving the Windows recovery engine the power to automatically connect to Intune and Azure, which still didn't set me anything, because what can it do? Of what power do you have when that's possible? Well, if we go to the next slide.
So to be clear, and I want to hammer this, I think it is really, really cool that like the WinRE is going to be identifiable within Intune, right? So it's like you have this whole other mini OS that before this, it was, it's a very dumb thing. It can do WinRE can do a very limited set of things, and it's pretty dumb. You don't have visibility of what's going on. And so like if you take nothing else, it's like, oh, you can boot into WinRE and it will grab the Wi-Fi profile. Sorry if I'm burying the lead here, Rudy. But like it's going to grab the Wi-Fi profiles from the main OS, and it gets the Intune and Entra identity from the main OS. And so now when it comes up, it's actually Intune will actually know what that device is. So like as a technology thing, like that's awesome.
It's amazing. When I was noticing how it was going to work, because it's still work in progress, because a lot of Intune blades, a lot of stuff is still hidden or not there yet. So the moment I noticed how it was going to work, it was pretty amazing, because with the Windows recovery environment being able to communicate with Intune and Azure, that gives us the possibility to define some configuration policies, to define the remediations. So the moment something happens with a device, which we all have seen with CrowdStrike, it seems that we now are going to have the possibility to configure a configuration profile and to configure some remediation. So the next time the device runs into an issue, the device could reach out to the service, to Intune, to fetch the configuration profile. So one of the things that Microsoft announced was the Windows Recovery and Remediation Blade, or the functionality. And when just looking at the Intune portal code, a lot of things started to make sense, because they are going to give you the possibility to look at the recovery device status, which is pretty obvious, because you push a remediation to the device if something happened, and you really want to know if the device is recovering, if the remediation is successful or failed or pending. And of course, you want to know the status of the Windows recovery engine. So looking at what they announced, the whole total picture, in my opinion, again, device association was one thing, but this recovery and remediation part, well, that's pretty neat. But again, in my opinion, this recovery and remediation still ties into something else. So if you go to the next slide, there it is. again, quick machine recovery, it's not a new feature. Do you remember when it was released, Brian?
Is it released already? So I mean, like, I think the consumer part of it's been around for a while.
Yeah. That's it. You can configure it. You can deploy the test mode with it to see at least if the device is able to reach out to the service and to connect, to find some possible remediations to apply them. But that's it. But the quick machine recovery, that's the key functionality, the key function that is going to live in the Readiness recovery engine to ensure that if the device is going to run into some boot issues, that it will fix it automatically. So yeah, if we go to the next slide, we can discuss a little bit about how it looks like. Because maybe a small summary of what quick machine recovery is, because it's already there or it's already in place. The moment the device runs into an issue, the device will give you a nice, well, I wanted to say blue screen of that, but just a screen of that. Then it will reboot the device, and then if everything checks out, quick machine recovery will kick in, and from there on, it will try to reach out to the service, connecting to the Wi-Fi, connecting to the network, and from there on, it will try to determine if there is a remediation in place, which we think could configure in the Intune recovery blade I just shown you. And from there on, it will try to apply the fix. Well, hopefully it works. If it don't, well, it will retry a couple of times. And if the remediation is successful, well, your device will reboot and your device will be nice and healthy again, which is one of the perfect solutions to deal with CrowdStrike. So next slide.
Before we do that, somebody asked, does it download the same OS? It's like, to be clear, so this is so there's layers here. So there's two other things we're going to talk about. Quick machine recovery is very specifically really about the CrowdStrike scenario, which is, if you remember, it was like there's this weird kernel mode driver doing something wonky, and if you could boot and do some things at just the right time, you could disable that driver and get things working. So that's what the quick fix part, the quick part of this is that the idea is that Microsoft would have a catalog of these fixes. And when RE would come up, look for those fixes. You can configure what fixes are approved in your environment via Intune, and then it'll apply it. So it's not reapplying the OS. It's not doing an OS reset. Like, this is just trying to think about it as a catalog of workarounds for weird blue screening issues.
Yeah, exactly. Just a bunch of PowerShell scripts that just tell the device what to do, what to fix, to get it booting again, to get it working again. So it's not a total rebuild or a reinstallation of the device. It's just a remediation.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So the next thing Microsoft had in stock to ensure that we could get our devices back working again is point-in-time restore, which Microsoft already has, if I remember it correctly, for cloud PCs, but Microsoft is also going to implement a functionality that will give us the possibility to do a point-in-time restore, which is pretty nice, because you just go into your Intune blade, you select a device, and if the device is running into a certain set of issues, you can ask the user at which stage did it start it. Then he probably remembers. If not, well, just wipe his device. But if not, you just select the point-in-time restore when the device was still functioning, and then you should be able to just click the restore point and just restore this version to the device. And how that's going to work, I don't know yet, but this is what we can see right now, and hopefully it will be an instant restore functionality. Hopefully the user will be prompted, hopefully with a nice grace period that he still can close everything or save stuff to OneDrive. But in my opinion, what we had with cloud PCs, we are going to see the same thing with the normal regular managed devices as well. So I also mentioned it, or called it volume shadow copy version 2, but maybe I should have called it remote volume shadow copy version 2, because this is what I remember back in the days. You could just go back to an old volume shadow copy thing and just restore that subset of data. And I think this is version 2 of it. But again, a nice addition to the whole Windows recovery remediation stack Microsoft is trying to build. So we can go to the next slide then. Because we now also have cloud rebuild. And I think Brian already mentioned a little bit, we can at least, well, not now, but the idea is that we can rebuild Windows from the cloud. A little bit like we had on our local devices. We can go to settings, wipe the device or reset the device, and then you can select the cloud rebuild functionality to download all the stuff you need from Azure or where that stuff lives, and then the device will download everything needed. It will apply everything, and it will do a cloud rebuild on the device itself. So if you go to the next slide, this is in my belief how it's going to look like. So again, it's a mock-up. So Microsoft, don't hate me for that I'm just...
Hey, it was what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
What they showed it, in fact, was mock-ups.
Yeah. In my opinion, whole Ignite was just a mock-up of all different screens because a lot of stuff isn't there yet. And I can see a lot, which I don't need to be in a preview for. So in my opinion, just looking at the code, which is already live in some parts, the cloud rebuild functionality will look a little bit like this, because Microsoft is going to tell you that you can select the Windows version, the OS version. I assume you can also select which quality update the ISO or the OS needs to have. So you need to select the latest, the greatest, and of course, other stuff as well, the drive, of not the drives, the language settings, the region settings, the keyboard settings. And I assume you also need to select some other stuff as well, but this is what I've seen in the code. So, and from there on, I assume you will just get an option in Intune to just cloud rebuild the device, just select the device, the same thing we had with a remote wipe or a password reset of the device, just select the device and click cloud rebuild, and hopefully that notification to the device will come through and the device will start to perform the cloud rebuild itself like a remote wipe. So again, another nice addition to the recovery and remediation stack.
Yeah, it's weird. They didn't really give us a lot of airtime. I mean, if you look at even the blogs, it's like there's a single paragraph about cloud rebuild, and yet to me, it's like, okay, this is kind of, so there's a lot of unknowns here. The way they don't talk about it a lot, but the talk they did makes it sound like it's, almost end-to-end automated. Like you right-click on the device, you do these settings, and like it will bring it through. It'll bring it through Autopilot for you without user interaction. It'll do the Windows restore. It'll reconnect to OneDrive.
Sounds like a magical place,
right? Like that's what it sounds like. I'm not sure they're actually delivering that, but like it's what it sort of sounds like.
Did a good job selling it.
Right. And the other thing that Rudy and I have talked about is like, this sounds close to bare metal. You're like, oh, the idea that you can download an OS, from the internet and apply it to the drive. And then second point, go to hit Windows Update, download all the drivers. Like, man, like that almost sounds like you could, that sounds like bare metal imaging.
Metal recovery.
But then you go back to the thing we talked at the start is like, yeah, but the trick here is that it's a WinRE that's using the identity of Intune and Entra, right? So like if it's true bare metal, then this device then is WinRE, how does WinRE know what its identity is if it's never seen Intune before? Or you slap a brand new SSD in that thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, so it doesn't, so it sounds tantalizingly like this is bare metal. Yeah, but it'll depend on those details. Like how is how's the identity getting into WinRE?
And it beats the bringing out the good old USB stick.
Yes,
we love the USB stick.
But even think that though, right? Like even the USB stick. This is why I kind of stopped at the first. Is like WinRE has Intune identity. How do you do that on a USB stick, right? Or is it like a USB stick per device? Like there's some like, hey, boot this, make a USB stick that's very specific to this one device.
That device and that user. Yeah.
I don't know. So a lot of questions here, but it seems tantalizing. Like, ooh.
Yeah, and well, I have a lot of details, but those details are maybe also too much NDA to even start talking about that. Webinar. So yeah, let's move on.
I was going to say the other thing that's interesting here was that this functionality or exists in the consumer space. There's always if you go to reset your PC, it does go to the cloud. It does pull down your Windows bits, but that's just your current version. So I think it's an evolution of what they obviously have working for a while. So it's good that it's based on some working technology. But I agree, the identity stuff is very, very intriguing as to how that's being done.
So I think we're almost done with the cloud recovery stuff, but managed Windows backup for organizations. Sounds lovely, right? Well, let's go to the next slide, because Microsoft announced it, which they already did a couple months back. But the moment I noticed Windows backup for organizations, I immediately called it Enterprise State Roaming version 2. And a lot of people within Microsoft didn't really like that.
They do love when we just name things V2. We reject your name for this thing, and we're just going to slap V2 on it. They love it.
Exactly.
They love it when we do that.
That was so funny, because at I'm not sure where it was, at MMS or MOA, Matt Call from Microsoft also called it Enterprise State Roaming version 2. I'm like, okay, I did a good job, because he's now mentioning the same thing. But the idea is pretty simple. You enable backup and restore for your organization. You also need to enable the manual restore functionality in Intune. But once you do that, once the device goes to Autopilot, you get a nice restore screen if Microsoft didn't break the 0-day patch, but normally that screen will show up. And from there on, you can just select the device or select the settings you want to restore. But again, it's bad naming, because in my opinion, it's only the settings that you are going to restore. So if you think you're going to restore your whole device with this, with all the apps, everything attached, well, that isn't it. It's just a bunch of settings, all the personalization settings, the same you had with Enterprise State Roaming, but now it's better, it's more granular. So it works better. But that's it, in my opinion. But again, it's a good addition to have if you want to move over from hybrid to cloud native devices. At least that was the whole idea about Microsoft. We need to give you the possibility to quickly restore all your personalization settings in one click. Well, that's backup for organizations. So next one, I think. Oh, maintenance windows. Well, Brian, have fun with that. And you're on mute.
Yeah, I sure am. I'm super excited about this. This is one that I've been teased within Microsoft for years. We are officially going to get real legitimate maintenance windows in Intune. In order for that to happen, Windows itself had to support it. That's why it's taken so long. I mean, Intune couldn't just magically give us maintenance windows. So if you go on to the next slide, you'll see what I forget. Is this something you captured, Rudy? Yes. Okay. So it's exactly what you kind of think maintenance windows are going to be. Instead of active hours, which is sort of a user-based concept of the idea is that the user can set, hey, here's when I'm working, task me outside of that. This is the opposite. This is us specifying, no, these are the very specific times you get to do certain things. And so, there's nothing, as Rudy said, he's nothing to see in the portal code yet so far, but this is another one where they're expecting it in Q1 of 2026. So we didn't see a whole lot, but I've known for a while this is coming, and I'm excited to see it. So yeah, watch this space.
Can I just really quickly jump in and just the idea of that specifically, when that comes out and people who are managing myriad of devices, make sure that there's two different policies for your portable devices and your devices that are sort of always on in the office or whatever. Because if you set a weekday schedule, like in the screenshot, 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. on a laptop, that thing's not getting patched. I'm just going to point that out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's pros and cons to this.
Turns out I do sleep.
Yeah. The other thing, though, to call out is this is going to. We were promised that this will be based on certain kinds of, or I'm not sure if we're going to have granularity per type of update. Is it OS, CUs, FUs, drivers, and all the other stuff. But what we have been promised is that they will do all of them. So if you're looking for a way of getting your drivers and cumulative updates and the other Microsoft updates to all install in one time period, which right now is a big problem, this will absolutely solve that problem. To Ben's point, this is not perfect. There could be some unintended consequences you want to think through, but it will definitely solve that problem. And as I've been talking about drivers for a few years now, it's a big problem. Drivers will just install whenever the heck they want. They don't obey active hours. Maintenance Windows will fix that for us. But again, it's not perfect. So Autopatch update readiness. So they've done a lot of revamping of the reports. So the idea here is you can see every device. So often Autopatch for previous, like, well, we have X number of enrolled, and you're like, well, X of what? And so this redesign is really intended to give you, like, if there's 50,000 devices in your organization, we will show you all 50,000 devices and what their status is. There's ability to go ahead and run ad hoc reports on, hey, how many devices in my org are ready to take the next cumulative update this month? Like, are they missing a SSU or some prerequisite? The bigger thing here is feature updates, right? You can run reports to figure out, hey, is there a safeguard hold on this feature update or not? And then they're giving us really, I'm going to show you this, so I don't want to belabor these 2 points. They're going to give us some actual granular process. So instead of just like, is it downloaded? Is it installing? Is it failed? Did it cancel? All of those things. So let's walk through the next 4 slides. I think are primarily visual. So this is, I think this is from the actual preview. Not a lot to see here, just some big numbers. But if you go to the next slide, we can dig down into this, right? So here you can see, hey, we just ran, this is an update readiness check on a cumulative update. You can see how many devices are ready for it with hot patching, how many are ready for it without hot patching. You can see how many have failed, how many have it installed. If you go to the next slide, this is us essentially scrolling down. It'll give you like, hey, here's the reasons that these devices aren't ready. They're either inactive, which means they're not powered on enough. They don't have internet connectivity, not enough disk space. And then you can, we don't have pictures for this, but then you can click down into that thing and actually get a list of those devices and try and figure out what you can do about it. If you go to the next slide, here's that granular, like here's a timeline of things that are happening on that device, right? So you can see, hey, we got this low disk space, and then we actually went and said, okay, well, let's do a fix. Let's temporarily clean up the temp files, and then hey, download, complete, install, all of these things. So I believe this is a 7-day timeline, but per device, you can look at an individual device and get a timeline of here's what's happened. Here's the thing that broke. Here's the fixes we did. So like that to me is kind of mind-blowing and insane. So let's move on to the next slide here. App inventory. So this is kind of confusing to us. There's already app inventory, discovered apps in Intune. So, and they didn't really talk publicly a lot about what this means. They just said, we're going to make it better. So is it faster? Is it more apps? Is it different kinds of apps, portable apps versus, is it unmanaged apps that aren't managed by Intune? We don't 100% know. But Microsoft is saying, hey, this is a problem. Our app inventory isn't up to where people want it, and so we're going to invest in it. What that means exactly, we can't tell you.
I didn't know.
Yeah, we don't know. So, but that's exciting. It's good to see for us. We're an app company. We want to make sure there's good data. So let's move on. Not sure this is the exact last thing, but phase deployments. So if you go to the next slide, so rings, right? So Attach My PC, we put a lot of work in doing rings. And Autopatch, if you're familiar with Autopatch, it has, the main feature of Autopatch, especially when you get out the doors, you can take these groups to do a safe rollout. Well, now the whole Intune team has decided maybe that's a thing people want. I'm not sure why it took them 15 years to figure that out. But here we are. They realize that people don't want to have a set of rollout groups, and they want to reuse those. So that's basically what they're creating. It's called deployment plans in the background. They talked about it as phase deployments. But the idea here is you're going to be able to set multiple groups of rings and use that across multiple different deployment types. So if you're deploying a policy, if you're deploying a setting, something from the settings catalog, if you're doing a remediation script, I think, if you're doing applications, very specifically, all of those things, you can create your test, walk, crawl, walk, run rings in production, and reuse those across all sorts of different types. So, the expected release here is, I I want to say it's early next year, but I forget if anyone knows off the top of the head what the GA was. But yeah, we're excited to see this one. So moving along, move to the next slide. Go ahead, give me one more click here.
Nice one.
We got ADRs for Intune, kind of. If we go to the next slide here, here's the. Is this? Did you actually steal this, Rudy, or was this? Did you make this up, or these images?
No, I didn't make this up. Those pictures are not mock-ups.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, I haven't played with this yet, so I don't have all the full details. But you can see here, there's different kinds of updates are going to allow you, and you can automatically approve them or manually approve them. So, I mean, it's not really ADRs for Intune, but it's a lot better than what we have. And very specifically, you're going to be able to have, these are for not just feature updates, but cumulative updates, and not just cumulative updates, but your week B previews, your out of band. We talked about the quick fix engineering stuff and how those are really updates, quick fixes. You can see at the bottom there, those are there as well, right? So you can automatically or manually approve what fixes you allow to happen. So it all feels a little like ADRs for Intune, and so I'm going to call it that. I don't know what they call it, but that's what it will always be for me. All right, moving on. What did we miss, Rudy? What did they not talk about at Ignite?
A lot, but I think there's also a lot which I'm still not allowed to even discuss. But this was one I discovered this morning. The ability to disable MDM enrollment when adding a work or school account. And I was looking at the Intune portal code and I was like, well, that's weird, because it sounds that, or looks like they are going to come up with an solution, an option to skip the allow my organization to manage my device screen. So you can just bypass that screen, because we all know if we have a personal device or a registered device, not enter joint or even an enter joint, the moment we open Teams, we add another work or school account or just add another account, we will get that pop up even on a personal device. And if we just select OK and leave the default allow my organization to manage my device on, well, guess what happens? Your device will enroll into MDM, it will enroll into Intune. Is that what we want for a personal device? I'm not sure. So this option will give us at least tenant or server-side admin controls to at least block that possibility to automatically enroll the device into Intune, which they should have announced at Ignite. And of course, this one, in my opinion, I really, really was hoping that Microsoft would come up with the announcement that they are finally going to start using the IC3 platform for the Intune management extension. Because in my opinion, if you just look at the code, and even with the latest Intune management extension, I can see that they are trying to add more code to the Intune management extension to start the flighting mechanism for IC3, which I believe, I hope, will give us the possibility to get an online status green red button thing in Intune in the port, so we can finally see if the device is really connected or disconnected. I guess the same thing we have with Teams right now. You can see or spot if a user is online or not within a couple seconds, which is pretty good. So if Microsoft is really going to use that IC3 platform for the Intune management extension as well, which they are going to do, in my opinion, that will improve a lot. I can't even begin thinking about what it can do with application deployments or everything that the Intune management extension can do.
All right. Wow. We are totally not going over time. Ben was actually there. So Ben, how'd it go?
Yeah, so I'm going to make sure that we are on time because I'm going to talk very briefly about this. So yes, I went to Ignite. This is the first time I've ever actually attended the conference. It was, let's call it morbid curiosity. I know that there's been some conversation in the chat already about sort of people saying that it's, not a great conference or whatever. I would suggest to keep an open mind. These things are huge. There was 20,000 attendees with that all flew to San Francisco, which made San Francisco downtown an interesting place to be for a week. There was 200,000 people that attended virtually. There's a lot of people. And when you run a conference at that scale, things do tend to be a little markety. I think that's kind of an unavoidable situation, when you get to that large conference size. But I genuinely did have a lot of fun when I went there. I go to a lot of conferences, and for anyone that does go to a lot of conferences, they're going to tell you the most important things of those conferences are not the sessions that you go to, but it's the hallway sessions, the discussions, and the networking that you have. So I definitely had a lot of fun there. Drinking games for AI would have been a very dangerous one. There was a lot of Copilot, a lot of AI. Every single session seemed to be around that and how you can sort of implement agentic flows into sort of your day-to-day tasks. There was some really interesting stuff because I'm in sort of the DevOps space. There was a lot of interesting stuff about leveraging AI to sort of, help assist deployment of things into your environments. There was a great session that I went to. I believe this was actually on the last day. It was Mark Rusinovich just doing a brief review on all of the sort of the innovations that they've made within Azure. They've called it Inside Azure Innovations. I truly hope they called it Azure Innovations just to make fun of the AI stuff. We've got a link in the resources for the recording of that. So strongly recommend going in and looking at that. One of my big takeaways there is that they've spent a lot of time working with Azure container instances, basically turning it into almost like a serverless Kubernetes instance, so that you don't need to worry about Kubernetes anymore. You can just say, I have a bunch of containers, I want them spun up. Just some really interesting stuff that they're building there, and something that I'll definitely be playing with myself. I can definitely talk a lot about sort of, what I did. Look, I went there as a Microsoft MVP. So one of my things that I had to do was a roundtable discussion between me and a couple of other fellow security MVPs. Specifically, we were just talking around our experience from moving ourselves or our customers from on-prem to the cloud. And, if anyone's heard me talk about that sort of stuff before, it very quickly became a support group where we were just talking about the pain points and the things that we ran into and how we got around it. It was a really lively discussion. We had about 60 people all just sitting in a sort of an open air theater, just talking. Had some really, really interesting discussions with that. And then after that, I sort of hung out and I just met a bunch of new people, and it was a really good experience. So I would strongly recommend, if anyone does get the opportunity next year, definitely go. I know that there was some rumors that, post-COVID, it was, sort of lost some of the energy, but it definitely seems to have ramped back up. And I think next year, hopefully, it's going to, be the same, if not a little bit better. Yeah.
And now, as promised, we spent the better part of an hour talking about nothing AI related. And here we are. So, yes, you should not be surprised. Microsoft was very excited to talk about Copilot and AI at Ignite. And there was some things I think we should all be aware of. And so let's kick it off. Do you want me to do this first slide there, Russ? Or
go for it, Brian.
Okay. So if we go to the next slide here, this first slide is just kind of 10,000 foot view. And some of it, I don't think any of it should be really new except for the last point. The first point is what I heard from Microsoft is move to the cloud because that's where AI is. So if you have been in this industry a while, somebody mentioned, we talked about making BGB a interview question. I don't think you can ask that in an interview anymore because of ageism purposes. But if you've been around that long, you've known Microsoft has been saying you got to move to the cloud. And often the rationale is, well, that's where innovation is. That's where security is. Like, you got to get to security because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's better. And they have subtly shifted, or not so subtly shifted in the last year, saying, well, you got to move to the cloud because that's where AI is. Now, I think there's a ... where they don't, they just presume that because AI is in the cloud, that will draw you there. I'm not 100% sure that's as sticky as they might want to tell themselves it is. Like, are you really going to move to the cloud? And the whole reason is because that's where AI is. I'm not convinced, but that's what the messaging is, and that's what we're hearing. The other thing I heard for that, again, 10,000 foot view is Windows is the canvas for AI, Windows being the OS. And so we're going to see agents coming to the Windows taskbar. They talked about, hey, Copilot voice integration. So I forget what was Microsoft's voice agent thing called before, but it's coming back and it's going to be Copilot. Cortana, yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's been so many years since I've even heard that mentioned. So Cortana's coming back or is still there, and it's going to be powered by Copilot. It was shocking. Edge itself is going to get in a whole Copilot mode. So if you want AI looking over your shoulder as you browse the internet, you will certainly have that option, it sounds like. The big news that came out is that SCUs, security computing units, which are what power Copilot, security for Copilot, which powers all the Intune stuff. You're going to get some of those in M365 E5. So for every E5, for every 1,000 licenses of E5, you will get 400 SCUs per month to burn. That gets prorated. So if you have one device, you will get like 0.4 SCUs or whatever that math works out to. I'm not doing it right now. So yes, if you have less than 1,000, you'll get whatever is prorated. If you have 1,500, I think you get whatever is prorated. So that's great. You have to be in E5. So there's an outstanding question of whether you're going to jump to E5 for these 400 SCUs. There's an open question of whether 400 SCUs is enough if you're, got thousands of devices. I don't know, but if you're in E5, the cool thing is you can start playing with some of this stuff without having to necessarily worry about getting a $10,000 bill thrown at you. So I think that's all. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to me, Brian, like the two, as we look at Security Copilot use within Intune and Defender and the security suite, like there's a couple of kind of bugbears that have come up. One is you run out of SKUs, you need to go buy some more. So I think Microsoft is definitely addressing that, like, well, if we can use E5 to front load you, and therefore we have enough to go and use all your agents and your interactive, the Explorer experience within Intune, for example, running those queries that uses Copilot. So they're obviously addressing that. The other aspect, I think, and I saw it called out in the chat, is like, when are agents actually going to do something useful and, provide value add above a smart administrator? So there was, in that vein, there was 3 new Intune Copilot secret agents, which are bringing admin gifts from afar, which struck us as interesting. I also note that the Copilot drew quite a small Aston Martin, so I think this year there's been a lot of cost cutting, so that Microsoft are giving out, smaller Aston Martins for the holiday season, so just be aware of that.
Did they used to hand out Porsches or something? Is it
Aston Martin they're trying to get them more classy, I wouldn't say British cars are better, but, clearly Aston Martins are great. So we have the next click. We'll look at the next. Yeah, there's 3 agents which are new. And these, I think the theme of reducing admin cognitive overload, doing something very specifically useful, which, I could do on my own. I could go ferret around and get information, but gosh, it would be nice if an agent did that. These 3, met that criteria for me. It's like, well, this is interesting. Now, as to how often you use them, and if you've already got other procedures, that is, a discussion item. So let's drill into the first one of these, which is the change review agent. So this is when you have a PowerShell script, you've got multi-admin approval, and it looks at, because the Security Copilot is looking across all of the security and Intune configuration management plugins, it can look at Defender vulnerabilities, Enter ID, so essentially it has a stash of knowledge of, gosh, what should I be looking out for? And it looks into the script, and we'll see an example in a moment. And it comes out recommendation. So either says, we approve this as low risk, or reject, and if it rejects it, so these are the things you need to go look at, and these are the concerns I have. And it looks at, script behavioral analysis, it looks at risk thresholds, and it runs on demand, so you can refresh the recommendations. So the next click, in terms of an example, a PowerShell script submitted for MAA that disables Microsoft Defender AV and modifies firewall rules. That sounds like a really safe thing to do. So clearly it would note this as risky. The interesting thing is the fact that the agent, has intelligence. It can look into those PowerShell settings and call out. Now, obviously this is a very crude example. It's likely to be something a bit more subtle that it's going to notice within the PowerShell, but it does have that syntactic knowledge. So I think this is good as maybe a check. If you have somebody who's creating detailed scripts in your org, but you actually want to have a quick verification. This seems like a good way to do that. Next one. So this is in the compliance space. So all of these sometimes geographical standards, SIS, NIST, compliance standards, and typically on some of these you would get, if you really concerned about these, you get a company to go define yourself a security baseline which aligned with these standards, and then you'd roll it out. So this configuration agent essentially gives you a way to analyze your current baseline, your current policy settings against these standards, and then it extracts the relevant settings. It suggests configurations and how to align with best practices. It gives you some policy draft creation. It saves and deploys the changed configuration to the admin center. So if we look at the example here on the next click, sorry, I can't see that very well from here. You have to go look at this. You can see it's a financial institution, that actually wants to apply CVEs level 1 benchmarks. So they'll just upload that baseline standard, and then AI will go through all of these settings, and they'll recommend things like enable BitLocker encryption, disable SMB-V1 protocol, etc. And then the admin can look at the recommendations and choose, and see, okay, well, what do I feel about these, and then go and change the policy and then run it through again. So again, the idea is to reduce cognitive workload and reduce very, very detailed expertise from the admin. So that's the policy configuration. And last, and perhaps appropriately, device offboarding agent. So this is kind of clearing out the stale devices. So this agent, again, uses Intune and Enter IDs. It collects information from devices that are inactive. Perhaps they've got some compliance issues or ownership status issues. It suggests which devices should be retired, wiped, or deleted. And it provides the reasoning, okay, why that is, why I think these should go. It doesn't automatically delete. This is like all of these, they're all essentially giving the admin the control of what's to be done, which is vital. Various platform support. I think the exclusions here are quite extensive. It doesn't include hybrid devices. It doesn't include Autopilot enabled devices, which had me scratching my head a little bit. We still need to retire and wipe these, but obviously for the subset of devices which it does work for, then this can be a useful agent to run continually or every now and then to actually see to clear out these devices. And we click again. Real world example is relatively straightforward. It will look at devices that have been inactive for 90 days. If you have bring your own device and you have mismatched ownership as to the primary user, well, they're suspicious. Maybe you want to clear those out. And then if you have devices which are continually missing compliance checks, you may want to remove those or go remediate them. So, useful. We're very interested to see the real world usage and hear feedback from you folks as to what you think is going to be the really vital and the task that will really move the needle on AI within IT. Any thoughts on that, Brian? Are you going to? I think we're going to try these, and over our Christmas pudding, I'm going to be running these agents and seeing how they're going.
Yeah, we actually want to do a whole AI webinar at some point, and not to not to make any promises we can't keep, but we have a group here that wants to start looking at these and start whaling away and seeing how they work. And I think the agents are, it's interesting. What is critical is the way they've talked about these is we're not there yet, but they want to get these to the point where they can actually start automatically remediating things. We're not there. The customers we aren't there as a industry yet to trust AI to start automatically fixing things. But when Microsoft talked about it, that's like, well, we want to get there. And some of this stuff with these agents, like, well, this is the first part of it. Like, okay, let's not automatically do things on your behalf, but let's start suggesting things to you that you may need to take care of. And eventually, if it works so well, you'll be like, well, why am I reviewing this list, right? If we can get these agents to generate tasks for me to do to the point where I'm like, wait a minute, why am I in this loop? I'm ready to be like, just fix this particular problem you keep finding, and this is the fix that does it. Like, just go do it. So, which I think, again, I can't speak to the cost, right? That's always the bugaboo here. But from a crawl, walk, run, like that's the words they should be saying. And so they're saying it. So will it work? I don't know, but they're doing the right thing, I think, though.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I was going to say, it's interesting to me that bridging the security and the systems management space, that is the, if you like, the nirvana here, is that you can have an intelligence going across your entire, crossing departments and cross, pulling all that data together. So I think, this is the start of it. I agree, there's still quite a long way to go, but there's a lot of potential there for autonomous safe management.
Yeah, totally. So as we keep talking, we're going to keep talking, but we have those Lego gift cards. So go ahead, go to that link right now, get signed up, and then at some point we'll go over there. So sorry, I cut you off there, Jordan.
No, you're fine. The other thing I think that's interesting, speaking of the whole, like, how many times, like, finding this and then letting me actually click the button to fix it for it, right? I think that's really the big, unblocker at this point, right? For a lot of the AI stuff and pieces that I've done with playing around with a lot of it, even the M365 Copilot Premium suite options for it, right? There's a lot of things where, like, the potential is there. The hooks are all there for it to read data for things like calendars, right? Like, this is a big one for me that I've tried a lot of, is like, and I saw this on Twitter that supposedly it's coming recently for it, like later this year, maybe early next year, right? Is like the ability for it to actually generate the calendar invite, prep the entirety of it, find an opening on your calendar and everybody else's you want it to invite calendar for it, and then send it, right? Like the functionality of something like that, right, for it, of being able to, like, do that, like, hey, go do this prep work for me for it. That's even more interesting to me from like than the device management, because of how big of a time saving that can be across an org for it, right? The little things like that for it is really interesting, of like the unblocking of, like, okay, actually do the thing for it.
But still, the data needs to be good, right? And I had this conversation with Brian about the data needs to be trusted. And even with the latest, the first glimpse of the vulnerability agent, we just clicked through. I was like, okay, that's not the data I have right now, maybe 2 years ago. And somehow it was still finding my old device, which was removed 2 years ago or 1 year ago, and it was still mentioning that it had an application installed with a vulnerability in place, and the device wasn't even there anymore. So again, everything stands or falls with having good or bad data, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said this in a few different places now, but we've been crying about reporting and data for like 10 years, right? Like, we need better reporting, we need better data. It's got to be faster, it's got to be more accurate. And then in the last couple, like 2 years ago, they started talking about, like, for 10 years, they said, we know, we're going to fix it. And then 2 years ago, they started to actually seem to be doing things, right? It's the MCCP, if I'm getting those acronyms right. And now they're talking about app inventory being better. The advanced inventory that they added even into the base queue. And you're seeing stuff go into the base queue. They're like, oh, that's interesting. We didn't think we would see that after all these years. But they crucially don't let you reach that data via the Graph API. So it's in the console. If you know what you're doing, you can get around it, but it's not intended. They very intentionally block you from grabbing that data and automating it in your own way. And it is not lost on me that happened just right before AI. They start talking about Copilot and AI and doing these things. AI cannot reason over data that doesn't exist. So it can't tell you, hey, these 10 devices are failing this update because it has, because it has this, because they all share this thing that they don't have enough disk space if you're not inventorying disk space and doing it quickly and accurately. So it's interesting to see that they're talking about more data, better data, quicker data, but also paywalling it. Well, that's not the word, just walling it so you can't use it. Why? Well, because they need that data for AI. And if their data is not good, then hallucinations are the least of your concerns. I mean,
join over 8,000 organizations who trust Patch My PC to keep more than 25 million devices up to date. It's secure, automatic, and built to scale. See for yourself. Book a live demo with a Patch My PC engineer or start your free trial.